Oh, we do have the right one live.
Welcome, everybody. Another edition of the EquinEdge Preview Show. I'm your host, Justin. Got my good buddy, Oldy, here. Oldy, coming off of the Breeders' Cup. That was fun racing. I went back through my picks, and I had a lot of second places. That was a little rough, but it was a good day and lots of fun. How are you, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Still wishing that Fierceness held off Sierra Leone because that cost me a lot. But had a couple good picks in there. Had a nice double. Just couldn't get home anything larger or longer than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Never really could connect much. Great racing, though. It really was. Now we enter into somewhat of a lull period, right? In early November here. Not a ton of stakes races these next, 3 days, but there's some that we will cover tonight. We got some. So I saw, Oldy, it's no longer Belmont at Aqueduct. They actually just call it Aqueduct now. So
Yeah.
the Belmont meet at Aqueduct is over, but Aqueduct is back, but it's always been here as the Big A. So thanks everybody for being here. We are going to start, Oldy, on Friday in Aqueduct race number 8. Let me share my screen. And we have a grade 3 on Friday, the Pebbles Stakes. And when I saw this, Oldy, the first thing that I thought of was, well, you're laughing, so go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You finish what you're saying.
Well,
I'm sure I know.
I just thought of Pebbles and Pebbles from the Flintstones.
And I was thinking, when is the Bam Bam Stakes?
Oh, I love it. Love it. And then I thought about Fruity Pebbles as a kid when I used to eat Fruity Pebbles all of the time. But all right. We got probably about, 12 to 14 stakes here. Aqueduct race 8, they start with a grade 3 on Friday. They're going 8 furlongs in the 180,000 Pebble Stakes. Makanga is running, Oldy. And last out, she did nearly win. I actually didn't get a chance to watch the race, but I did think there was maybe some other speed here, which, I think was a little bit intriguing to me on, are we actually going to see her have somebody go run with her? But what were your thoughts here in race 8 on tomorrow?
Yeah, first thing I noticed was Makanga as well. I think the question on others' pace here, the race sim doesn't think so, the pace number doesn't think so, but it really depends on what Jody's Pride does, in my mind, the 5-horse.
Mm-hmm.
And also, this horse is also first time turf, so whether this horse takes to the turf too.
Yeah. GSR drops, right? But coming from the Ashland over on dirt now to turf, but obviously won that 78 on dirt. So
Yep.
they must believe that she's able to run on turf for Jody's Pride.
Yeah, I mean it is a long layoff. Abreu's pretty good off a layoff, but I'm not sure on the move to turf there.
Yeah.
And Scotty had been arguing that Makanga belongs at 8 furlongs and is getting 8 furlongs here, so that kind of made me think here Makanga was my top pick.
Okay.
We almost got her home at 9 furlongs. if she runs that same pace here, there's nobody here who could keep up
Yeah.
early. She ran like 22 and change in that 9 furlong race. Um, it's really to me, so unless Jody's Pride takes to the turf and, you know, and loves the turf, to me, it's Makanga versus Oversubscribed. They're kind of renewing their rivalry from earlier this year, where Makanga got oversubscribed the first time, and then Chad sent a rabbit after Makanga to get oversubscribed home.
Yeah.
But so for me,
Oversubscribed is likely to be our morning line or is the morning line favorite, probably the favorite at post time.
and I think you're going to see 3-2 or lower than that on oversubscribed, based on the Chad Brown Pratt factor as well. There.
Yeah. Yeah. Big GSR 88 moves back to 8 furlongs, was running at 9 last out. So you have Makanga on top, you mentioned. Who else did you see underneath?
So I went 7-6-5. The 3 horses I've talked about pretty much.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. When I looked at this, Oldy, I thought that Makanga, she just runs off, and I don't know, maybe to Scotty's point, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if he's right and you're right, and maybe she can wire, but I just thought that the pace might set up for oversubscribed. Like, I thought this was a fairly competitive race, but I did think that, last out at Keeneland, that was obviously too tough in the QE Cup, in the Lake George. In last out, she was really close to the pace, Oldie.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's probably where Flavian's going to put her. That's where Irad put her. And, Pratt won 3 back in that stakes race, right? And, that was a 66. I think she still could be on the improve. She has lost a little bit of money, but, I think she's the likely, going to go off as the morning line favorite. I think that she definitely fits. She can win this race. But ultimately, I didn't really love this. I did think that, I would put her on top probably, but I actually, I went away from the speed of the 7-2-5 and whoever's going to kind of be up on the lead with Makanga maybe. I thought that Whiskey Decision, Oldie, and the one, Dia Miatrona, were kind of who I looked for underneath. So Whiskey Decision had won 3 in a row, did not run in the last 2, but I did think she had a good shot here. And the part that I thought was very not suspicious or anything, but Luan Machado is in New York riding Whiskey Decision for Delacour. And, Machado had rode over at Churchill and Turfway Park.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know how often he rides in New York. And on the Saturday card, I know he usually rides in Kentucky, and he's back in Kentucky because there's some stakes races over at Churchill that we'll talk about towards the end of the show. But he was that was just very intriguing to me. I mean, really well bred. I did think that this race, maybe fairly open, Oldie. I didn't have a massive strong opinion here. I did think oversubscribed probably could take it, but I think you're going to 3 horses I'm not even looking at other than the 6, but the 5 and I think you mentioned the 5 and 6 with the 7, but and then so I was really 6-4 and then 1. And so that is the other Chad. And so it's a little bit of that angle with Irad. I mean, did win versus much, much easier. So she's really going to have to improve. But, and the GSR drops a little bit. But I did think, Irad obviously draws the mount. Manny had been riding. I thought was maybe a little bit interesting at a price. But I didn't have a huge, strong opinion, but I do think Whiskey Decision, if I was playing just a entertainment bet, or something, would be something for me with the lawn riding and in a fairly open race. So, hey, Al. Hey, Imran. But that's only I was 6-4-1.
Let me add one horse to consider that I would switch out with Whiskey Decision. I'm concerned about the form on Whiskey Decision. But how about the three See You Around? First time in the U.S. for Christophe Clement.
Yeah.
Grade one placed in Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I think fits here. I don't disagree with you. I mean, off the layoff, coming here overseas. I mean, nothing really on the work tab other than, I mean, the works look fine. Obviously, had kind of back-to-back works there here before the race tomorrow, but yeah, again, not a strong opinion for me. So anybody could, most of these horses you could probably make a case for. So, for me, I do think the 6 probably the favorite, but it's I think you could go various ways. All right, I'm 641. You are 765, and maybe some interest in the 3. It sounds like.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. We and thanks everybody for being here. Welcome if you're just joining. We are going to move on to the second race we're going to cover, which is not Oldy, the Bam Bam Stakes, but that would have been amazing for Aqueduct to do that. But instead, we go to the Autumn Days Stakes. That didn't necessarily bring any memories back for me, like Pebbles, but you have in Oldie. What I noticed as we jump in here, there was a lot of races where you had some pace squares. So I know that as we handicap these, I'll probably hear about some of them from you.
Yeah, and this wasn't one of them actually, ironically. So I'm just not sure that this horse actually will A, be on the lead, and B, that the 6.5 furlong form going down the hill has anything to do with this race. And so for me, I tossed the 4 complete top 3. I thought the 2 for Clement was a legit favorite. Here, it's
only 8% though,
but a grade 3 winner. It did come out of Kentucky Downs and then didn't run a lick at Keeneland, broke slow.
Yeah.
And had start trouble. So if you throw out the start trouble, I think this horse runs back to that form. But if it doesn't, the other Clement, Love Appeals, I think is good enough here, the 10 horse. And then I thought the 5 Loon Cry, the third Clement here that gets Rosario. So I guess I like the Clements in this race.
Well, yeah. So the 2's a Clement, the 5's a Clement, right? So you're on the 2. Yeah, and then the 10 and Love Appeals. Yeah, you're so instead of the Chads, and I didn't notice that. So Clement has 3, and Graham Motion has 2. It looks like with the 4 and the 6. So Michelle Nevin shows up here as well. So I it's similar to you, Oldie. I was not necessarily really looking at the 4 with Graham Motion and Pratt. Is the top pace, probably going to set the pace. But to me, there was quite a bit of speed, Oldie. And I actually thought that Dylan Davis for Love Appeals is who I put on top. I mean, Love Appeals won back-to-back at 5 furlongs over at Monmouth Park in 68. And then, but did run 2 great races, Oldie. Once at Laurel and then most recently here on the outer turf at Aqueduct, a.k.a. the Big A, and a 72 SOR last out. The win percent does drop, but, I just thought for Dylan Davis and Mr. Clement, who you talked about a minute ago, I just thought maybe he could sit a really good trip, Oldie. And, Dylan's been riding obviously great this year, really found, a great place, I feel like, in that jockey colony in New York, and is in my opinion, considered kind of up with that upper group now. I mean, he's been riding so well, so kudos to him. But, and she's, a 4-year-old, hit the board 9 of 12 times, 4 wins. I just thought she could sit a really good trip. And then, I went for prices because I said, hey, if I'm not going to take the favorites here, this is a race where I thought you could beat favorites. I really did. I thought that both the 2 and 4 might be vulnerable. In Ms. Big Bucks, I guess. For Michelle Nevin, won 2 in a row at Aqueduct at 6 furlongs on the outer turf. And, 62 and 66. So she's definitely going to have to improve, but does show up as the long shot. So that doesn't concern me as much. Oldie is only 5% to win, but the long shot hits in, low teens, basically in the 13 to 14% range. I thought fit. And then, I think the big thing there, showing the ability to come off the pace. I do think we'll have some pace in front of it with the, 2P as well as the 3 and 8. Probably show some speed as more cheap speed, though, with the low win percents. But I do think could disrupt the pace a little bit. And then the other horse, Oldy, was the 1. And here would be my perspective on Hollywood Walk. Is 7%. I think in this field, that's fine. Castellano rides for Trombetta. Very competitive, stakes race if you get around the favorites, and, has 21 races, but hit the board in 15 of 21, which is great. You can see, she has run really well as a 5-year-old recently over at Laurel and Colonial. I think when I look last out, though, she's in form. I think the rail is fine. Can't get shuffled too far back would be the biggest concern I would have for the 1, Oldie, just being on the rail. And so going to have to break and not just get shuffled. But I thought if the pace sets up, Castellano can save ground and really come firing home. I think that she's a great horse to use in a vertical, but I also think she's a player on top. But if you're playing tries, you're 100% using Hollywood Walk, in my opinion. I mean, hit the board in, 4 straight races at this level. So I think you're going to probably the E morning line 20 to 1 and, the morning line 12 to 1. So you're probably going to get every bit of that, So for me, I was 10, 7, 1 and really trying to get around the favorites here.
Makes sense. And I don't think the 7 should be 20 to 1 either. My biggest concern on Hollywood Walk is that one win, the one recent win, it came at 118 pounds, where it was a low price and had a weight advantage in a handicap. So, the other times that horse just finishes in the money but doesn't quite get there, and I think maybe the weight advantage put that horse over the top.
Yeah.
But I could see it. I'm not disagreeing that it could happen, but I just wonder whether it might need that weight break.
Yeah. I mean, did run well last out, right? At 6 furlongs here at the Big A. So, and again, Castellano rides, hops aboard, has not been riding, but I felt like in this race, Oldy, and then we'll move on to the next set of Friday races. But if you're against the favorites, it's kind of like, who do you like, right? I know that you have the 2 on top, and that makes sense. But that's how I looked at it. I just thought that, if I was going to go against the favorites here, who underneath? And and we just as we close out this race, I think Love Appeals is the, being, again, 4 wins in 12 tries. She has won stakes races, gets, similar here. And I really think she's going to get a good trip from that post. So,
yeah, no, I think she might too.
All right. That's it for Aqueduct on Friday, but we're now going to go to, I don't know, I'd say one of the, probably EquinEdge kind of fun tracks to play in Remington Park, Oldie. They have a handful of stakes races on Friday evening, tomorrow evening. We're going to start with race 3, the State Bred, the Slideshow Stakes. Win percent, so they show this as maybe not wide open, but definitely some players. I didn't necessarily really see it that way. I thought that this race, maybe was looking at just one or two horses, but curious to hear your thoughts here.
Well, I'll say that a bunch of these horses faced each other last time out in
Mm-hmm.
that Oklahoma Class CB or whatever the
Yeah.
full name of that. So, I do think it's possible, and it was a very close finish between the 3 and the 1.
Yep.
So I just think, first of all, these are short fields, short slideshow, so to speak. Um, I really thought it was between the 3 and the 1. I thought maybe the 3 turns the table this time, and the other horse I kind of liked was the 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. If we watch the race sim here, it everybody fairly close. The 3 and 1 likely to be up on the lead, as you mentioned. They all actually raced. Was it everybody except for the 5? Yeah. So the 5, won its maiden last out, but the 1, 2, 3, 4 all faced each other. Um, you know, I think Oldy, when we look at this last race, the one kind of came way off the pace, right? And that was
Yeah.
the 10-horse field. The GSR does drop on the stretch out with the 1. And so that was my biggest play against. And so I actually landed on the 3. And on the race sim, the 3 kind of gets the lead. And, the 1 slightly wins. I do think, as you mentioned, it's between these two. But my deciding factor really, Oldie, was, using the GSR as a play against. When we look at the GSR plus on the 1, it does show that this horse predominantly its higher numbers are sprinting. Not that it doesn't have respectable numbers at 9 furlongs, or in this case, 8 furlongs, but that's really how I had to try to narrow it. And, I thought Little Iris, I don't think that she needs the lead, but she probably gonna get it, or maybe she'll sit right off of the 1 or the 2, Oldie. But I saw it similar to you. I probably, if I was playing this sequence and like I think they call the first pick 4, it might be the primetime pick 4 at Remington. I can't totally remember, but I would probably look at her as a single, actually, just because I would be trying to make a decision in the sequence essentially, and not use 2 favorites. I think you got to just make a decision in this race and you just live by it. I think if you use both, and if you use more than both, then you might as well not use favorites. But I just felt like in a sequence that she probably the single for me if I was looking at playing it. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I mean, this is a smaller field. Maybe the 2 breaks better, but the 2 has broken well twice and run well twice, broken poorly 3 times.
Yeah.
And run poorly 3 times. So,
Yeah.
it's a coin flip.
Yeah. All right. We're both on the 3, I think. And, maybe the 1 got a shot, but I'm going to play against with the GSR drop. All right. We are going to go to the second Statebred Stakes, race number 7, tomorrow night. And everybody in the chat, thanks for joining. Dan said, Oldie, instead of Clementine, Oldie, think it's Clement time. Is that what I mean? But everybody, thanks for being here. All right, race 7, the Silver Goblin Stakes, another state bred. Another 5-horse race here. So competitive short fields and state bred stakes. We have the 2-horse and the 3-horse and the 4 are gobbling up all the win percents. I did cut the 1, but when I looked at this solely again, I thought it was probably between 2 horses for me, but curious on your thoughts here.
I mean, I threw one of the top horses out here. I threw the 4 out completely.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense. I took so on top I have the 2 who's the long shot, and your gold horse to watch there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
If it,
top
you know,
must be so Scotty Longshot, top win, top pace, top SOR.
yep.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I took that horse on top. 5-2 is not a very long shot price, but it's still better than the 4 at 9-5.
yes,
And
yes.
then I was on the 3, who's the top pick. And here's where I differ from the picks. I actually thought the 5 has a little bit of a look. Mr. Wayside, 6-year-old gelding, um, has run against some decent state bred horses and just missed. I don't think this is, a great group here. I do think this horse might need the lead. That's the only thing, but I'm not sure. The 2 does not always break well and doesn't always go to the lead. So if the 2 doesn't go to the lead, maybe the 5 just gets an easy lead.
Yeah.
And I know the race sim doesn't show any of that, but I was looking for somewhere that I could find a horse that at Remington that might have a little upset to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't necessarily really look too much at the 5. I don't love that last out effort, and didn't win, but from a trouble perspective, maybe there was a bit of trouble. I don't know, it was on the rails, so maybe you have to forgive that effort. But I really thought it was probably between the 2 and 3. Similar to you, I just didn't really have a huge look at the 4. I know it's the second pick. I know it kind of closes a little bit on the race sim. I thought Breakable Code would be tough here, Oldy. If you go with the every other race win pattern, you're right in line here. Not that that's why I picked the 3, but is sprinting, stretches out to 6.5. I don't think will be a problem. The source has one on the lead, off the lead. This trainer, Joe Awful Tour. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but he shows up with various sources tomorrow night in stakes races, and I just thought that this was probably a really good chance. I mean, this is Brian Hawk is the owner breeder, so it's a homebred, and it's obviously a state bred stakes here. I won a 64 last out in allowance, and then last out right in the this sprint race here ran obviously a respectable second. You have CW Prize, who also ran a stakes race, but not the same one though, Oldy, on the same night. But the 2 went 2 churns and now cuts back. And I know one boasts 6.5 furlongs in those 40,000 allowance, and then in the 3 very similar. So I think that they're very similar, competitive. But I just thought this horse might have its way. You mentioned the 2 might break slow. The 5 might get the lead. The 5 might want to go to the lead. I just thought that the 3 Breakable Code had a good opportunity to sit the trip. I think really well bred. This horse has been well met. 13 wins. It's hit the board 12 times out of 13. 6 wins. Sorry, that's the 2. But the 3, 5 wins and 6 tries. And so I think it was really between the 2 of them for me. I really wasn't on Lake B, but I put the 3 on top.
All right.
All right. We will finish up Friday tomorrow with one more 2-year-old stakes race, but another. Well, this is a 6-horse field, Oldy, but I felt like they struggled to fill this race because the 1 and the 2, I'm not sure fit here. We'll watch the race sim here for a second. So I went to handicap this, and I was watching the race sim, and the 1 and 2 are 1%, and from a pace perspective here, the 3 and 4 are going to be out on the lead. The 4 obviously a big favorite, and the 1 and 2 they just kept falling behind, and so, but they ran 7 lengths, and then they were going to 8 lengths here, and then they just kind of they just kind of stop, and they're just so far behind. And the 4-horse wins only by 5 lengths. Like, I'm not sure how often we see horses win the race and by 5 lengths.
Not very often, and I just don't know. I mean, I think part of that is the 3 is a maiden, so that the only data you have is that one race. But it did win that one race by almost 11 lengths.
Yes.
And it was
Yeah.
a 50. It was not a weak made race, according to the SOR rating. So I think it's going to be about which of those 2 horses, the 3 or the 4, gets the lead.
Okay.
And I'm not sure the other one will be able to stay with whoever gets the lead. Just thinking about it, the other horse I liked a little bit of here is the 6 horse for the same trainer.
That's my Exacto horse. We keep going. Yep, I like it.
So, the 4 did finish 5.5 lengths in front of the 6, but if the 3 and 4, if they just go balls to the walls fast here, the 6 is going to clean this up and win this race, because the 1 can't really close. The 5, it's an Asmussen horse, so maybe it just had a bad trip last time. I'm looking at it and not putting enough weight in there. But the 6 actually put in a much better effort than the 5 in that same race.
Yeah.
And I just think the 6 might get if things happen the way they show on the race sim for the first couple of points of call, maybe up to the 3rd point of call. I think, and you see this happen a lot at Remington, one of those horses from behind is going to win.
Yeah. I'm in Brendan. Well, I want to make sure we'll get to your question 1 second around Pleasanton, but I thought Mr. Omaha for Joe. We just talked about Joe, and I don't want to try to. Joe has the 4 with Quinones, but I thought the 4 would just be really tough here. I think this is just a really nice Oklahoma bred from Omaha Beach. Brian Hawk, homebred. They feel like these, just kind of dominating at the Oklahoma level. To your point, the 4 and the 3 raced together last out. The 4 not the 4 and the 3. Was it the 4 and the 5? Yes, and the 6. So,
yes.
But I was with you in that the 6 is the horse to me, Oldy, the long shot that is also owned by Brian Hawk, and so he has at least 2 here. I'm not sure if he has the 1 or 2, but that and Joe has the 6 as well, and Alvarez rides. So I really saw this race as 4-6. I would have interest in a 4-6 cold, as Dave Weaver, would say, an ice cold exacta, and I think you probably get an okay price on that. You might get 6-1, something around that. That would for sure be something I would look at playing. But I think your point, if I can get 10 or 12-1 on a 6-4, I would even play some box action, because I do think you do have a good perspective that this 3-horse might send and the 4 is fast. They could actually burn each other out and set it up for the 6 to turn the tables. So I think you and I see it, similar, but I have the 4 on top and then the 6 underneath.
Makes sense.
All right. That is all the racing for stakes racing on Friday that we're going to cover tonight. So everybody tuning in, thanks for being here. We're always covering Friday, Saturday, Sunday stakes races. So Oldy, Brendan was asking about Pleasanton. And I show Pleasanton, Brendan. I do show Pleasanton on, is this tomorrow?
Saturday.
Yeah, so it on the 9th, Pleasanton is showing up, Brendan. You should be able to see all 8 races. So if you can't, you maybe refresh let me make sure. Let me click on a race to see, make sure. Yeah. So you should be able to see it just fine. Maybe you just need to refresh or maybe sign out and sign back in would be my only comment. Let us know. I'm happy to try to help you too. Okay. All right, Oldy. We're gonna jump over to the 9th, which is Saturday. And we will jump back to the Big A at Aqueduct. We have another grade 3 in the Hill Prince Stakes. Going 9, lots of racing on the outer turf, and have some more pace squares here. In this case, you have Bartlett with Mr. Pennington riding for service, but you also have some favorites here. 2 horse going to probably be the favorite that goes off at post time. But what were your thoughts here in the Hill Prince Stakes?
I thought this race is ripe for an upset. I hate the morning line favorite, Deterministic. I hated him last time out. I think he wants dirt. He's burnt a ton of money this year as a favorite. He was the favorite in the Wood Memorial. It's the favorite in a grade 3, a favorite here, a favorite there. The only one he got home in was the Virginia Derby on the turf, and that was a pretty weak field.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like the 2 either, so I'm throwing out the top 2 morning line picks here.
I'm right with you. Yep.
And my top pick is the 1. I just think the 1 might be. I know the GSR drops.
On the move.
We're going 9 furlongs instead of a mile 70, but I just think this horse may be faster than everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that win over 60s on the dirt. I mean, it's only a 67 GSR. It's not like it's dropping from 90 to 57 here.
Mm-hmm.
It won that race by 11 lengths. And, this horse might be able to go and just keep going. And it's the long shot. It's a pace square. So that there's multiple algorithms seeing this horse. And for me, this horse, I think, has a big shot in a group that's just not that great.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Keep going.
Go ahead.
I'm similar. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the 2 really at all. I know Flavian riding for Shug, and this horse has shown the ability to win on the lead and broke its maiden kind of off the lead, but has been racing kind of very similar, and doesn't always get there. Runs a respectable second. Didn't run last out at Kentucky Downs, so maybe you can toss that race. And so if you get back here and you say, wow, this horse can win on the lead here, I just thought, I think to your point, the 1 is very fast, Oldy, coming off the dirt. So, I actually look for somebody to come off the pace, but I was similar to you, and I was tossing the favorites in the 2 and 3.
So the other horses I liked, and I'm not sure about you here, was Royal Majesty, the 7.
That's my top pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You're fine.
All right, and the 4 horse Main Beach. I thought for Chad Brown coming off the layoff, gets IRAD, almost got there in a 62 group. I think probably won't be as close to the pace. And, I think coming off could be sitting on a big race coming off the bench here. But, there's just not all that much here. There's the other Chad Brown, the 6, and the 5, who's, running a bunch of these races.
Yeah.
As well. But I just think you can find a price here.
Yeah. I mean, I think the 2 and 3 fit, obviously. I think, and you can go a lot of different angles. That's why I think this race, we've talked a lot about the various ways. You talked about the 1. I thought Royal Majesty is who I put on top. I think, has 2 wins in 8 tries for Mr. Belmont, and Junior rides his go-to rider. The win percent's similar. I just like the drop here. I mean, Royal Majesty's coming out of grade 1 and grade 2s. I think they find just a really easy spot here versus, probably a fairly competitive group. I think money's gonna flow in on the 2 and 3. I think the 3 will probably be over bet, like you kind of talked about. This horse is burn some money. It's probably gonna burn some more money again, or maybe it gets home. But when I look, Oldy, this horse had been racing in these grade 3s and grade 1s and running well, and then finally gets there, but then doesn't get there, right?
Yeah.
And you look at Royal Majesty, and yes, has only won a 62 after the maiden win, right? But won easy. And then, was running versus short fields. This is a fairly short field again, only 7 entered, so very similar. But, did run well last out at Aqueduct. So, I think 9 furlongs fits perfect. If you go back to that grade 2 Oldie at 9 furlongs on the outer turf at Aqueduct, doesn't Royal Majesty win the race? I mean, and I believe if we watch the race sim, yeah, Royal Majesty just misses between the 2 and 3. So for me, I didn't love the 2 or 3. Again, I think they fit here, right? But I just thought that the 7 with the big GSR gets back to 8, 9 furlongs. And, again, if it can run the same race as it did back here in May, I would think that he wins this race.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very possible. I mean, both Deterministic and Royal Majesty have been kind of run a similar race style, and maybe Deterministic is typically a little bit closer, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the 2 Hugino for McGahee, this horse, other than the 1 win at Churchill, where I'd be willing to bet that was a paceless race, drops back. And if that happens, think about the lead the 1's going to get.
Well, and the 2 really has not shown a lot of speed, but I mean, has been facing big fields. So from that perspective, facing this much bigger fields. But no, I'm with you. I think your angle on the 1 is just fine, and we will see what happens. So you have the 1 on top. I have the 7.
All right. Race
All right.
8.
We are now headed to race number 8 at the Big A. Another race on the outer turf. Much bigger field, though. All types of ways to go in this race. This might have been one of the more fun races for me to handicap out of most of the races. Just, I like the bigger field, obviously being on the turf. Win percent showed this kind of fairly open. You do have another pace square, though, and I saw lots of these. This one's only 3%, but is the long shot. But who were you looking at here?
Yeah, so I'm on the long shot with the pace square at 15-1. I pace in a turf sprint with that kind of 20-point pace advantage is hard to pass up. The question for me is just, does it get the 6 furlongs? If this was 5, I think this horse should be 2-1. But, at 6 furlongs, I do have some questions whether it will get it, and I'll get a price that will reflect that, and I'll take that price. So the 4 was my top pick. And then I was on the 9, Sunday, something like that. Grade 3 winner in the Belmont Turf Sprint for Clement. Here I am, it's Clement time again. And 5-2, so pretty low odds there, as you would expect on a grade 3 winner. And then Justin, I then like the 5 Outlaw Kid for George and his Weaver there.
Yeah. Yeah, Flavian rides. I think Outlaw Kid could. Well, I agree with you. I do think Outlaw Kid could be dangerous here, right? One is
Yeah.
66, two back, one easy. Missed last out, but was kind of took over at the stretch, and then kind of did fall back at 6 furlongs, but that was up at Woodbine, so gets a different track, and 1-4 back here at on the outer turf at Aqueduct, right? So yeah, and that was the 70 oldie.
Yeah. And, I look at this and I don't know about you, but for me, even though the 3's 4 at the distance, it's been against significantly easier. And it's the pace wise, the slowest horse in the race.
Yeah, really no speed, right? I mean, it just, had broke 7th, 5th. I mean, when it's been running, I think from a pace perspective, right, it's the lowest number, like you said. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's going to make that tough for the 3-horse 26 Black. And
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think the rail will be out. So I think Goldie that in a size, a 10-horse field, that's going to be tough. If you look, this horse did win here in a 10-horse field, right? At, here, but was a lot closer to the pace. I don't think that's going to happen today. I
yeah.
expect it to get a similar trip, Oldie, and some of these others where it's, 5 lengths back. It's going to be tough for 26 Black to close into the pace, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And I think that it may, unless the 4 strings them out, the 3 is going to have to figure a way out too.
Yeah,
If it
no, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
gets in that position and with the rail out, you're absolutely right. So, who are you on here?
I again, I really liked handicapping this when and I know you put the 4 on top. At first, when I handicapped this, I had some interest in the 4, but then I kind of said, well, I'm not so sure. I think this group's too good. For me, I like to see a little bit of a classier horse on the lead, Oldie. I think this is a big step up for the 4. So I thought we would have some pace to run into, and so I actually put the 1-horse Son of a Birch on top. It's the top win percent, but only at 15%. But Johnny V rides for Morley and second off the layoff. And I'm this horse is going to be a monster price. I think again,
Yeah.
another horse to use in a vertical for sure. But I thought actually Son of a Birch could win, Oldie. I mean, Morley won 2 in a row, a 58 and a 64, kind of sitting off the pace. I think we'll be able to save ground, probably get a similar trip. Johnny V in a group like this with some horses with no speed, and is coming up short in 70s and 72s, but also, is only start 13 in just in my opinion, this is a wide open stakes race, the Aqueduct Turf Sprint Championship Stakes. And I love the price. I really do. I have a feeling we may probably cover this race on Saturday. I know we got to lock in stretch run time, but I thought that I just really think this horse can blow up the board. So I put the 1 on top. Not a huge, strong opinion, but I do love it. And then I looked at the 5 when we talked about Outlaw Kids. So I won't necessarily spend any more time there. I do think Outlaw Kid's a big player. The other horse that really, Oldie, for me was Shefflin, the 10 horse. And,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that, as a really sneaky play, Maury, obviously it's a 24% first race back. And, is coming off of the synthetic over at Turfway Park. But the best angle, Oldie, was the GSR here. And in a hugely wide open race, I get Jose Ortiz. I get pace in front of me, which I just love for Jose. And, ran really well over at Turfway, right? In last March. I think is off the layoff. So, that might be a little bit of a concern. But I think that they are being extremely sneaky, Oldy, with this move to the turf. I think that Maury knows exactly what's going on. I think that he can see there's going to be some pace here. Has hit the board in all 5 starts, has 3 wins, and as long as Shefflin is ready to go, which I think will be, I think Jose Ortiz gets a perfect pace setup, Oldie, and I think you're going to get a great price around 8-1.
I mean, I could see that, and I'm going to add that horse to my list here as well. You
The
sold me on it.
GSR, Oldie, is just the crazy thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's, I feel like that, Maury probably don't have EquinEdge, but I think they figured it out here with the GSR increase, the 9 and, May. And I think Outlaw Kid Oldie probably going to go off as the favorite, even though the 9 is the morning line favorite. But again, if I'm getting 8-10-1 on Shefflin, I absolutely love this. And then again, I think Son of a Birch is just a crazy sneaky angle, So I was talking myself into putting the 10 on top over the 1 or the 5. So, but not a huge preference in SkewTube. I don't know how to pronounce that, but welcome. We're glad you're here. Thanks for being here. But I just love that angle. Jose off the pace is going to have some speed and switching over from that synthetic track over at Turfway.
Absolutely agree with you.
All right. I'm 1-5-10. You are 4-9-5-10, if I remember.
Yes, correct.
All right. We are going to move on to race 9 at the Big A. The Grade 2 Red Smith Stakes, Oldie. Going 11 furlongs on the turf. Win percents are really kind of leading to the 2 as the top pick. Is going to be probably a big favorite, but what's your thoughts? Is the 2 a single?
I mean, I'm torn on it as a single, but the 2 I did have on top. There's a bunch of many-time money burners in this race, like the 6 Adamo. I mean,
some of these horses just have not been able to win.
Yeah, Masterpiece is another great example of that. For me, the horse that interests me a tad is the one Curbstone coming out of Far Hills, where it went 16 furlongs on the lead and lost by a half a length.
Yeah, I mean, obviously much easier, but it does have the pace square, right? So you assume that this horse might just get a little bit of a, up on the lead versus the 3 and 6.
Yeah, and I just don't think the 3 is all. I mean, the 3 is broken poorly. I will say though, Dutrow has the 3 and the 8, and the 8 needs pace to run into.
See, I think that they're going to be a lot of pace here. Not a lot of pace. Sorry, don't get me wrong. I do think it'll be, fairly competitive up on the lead. I don't think the 1 probably going to get loose, but Dutrow just claimed the 3.
Yeah. So I mean, is this horse here to be a rabbit? That's my, because this horse does not really fit here.
Yes, I agree. That's the exact notes I have. Not sure fits here.
Yeah, but if it doesn't, if it breaks slow like it's been doing and just kind of meanders like it did at 9.5 furlongs or 8.5, the 1 could get a pretty easy lead, and we could be looking at like who can run that horse down. I thought the 2 is the situation that the 1 and 3 both go.
Yes.
But, and then I like the 8 underneath, but not on top. So in order, I'm the 2 on top. And then if I were going to play a long shot here, the 1. And then I like the 8 just underneath. I don't like it on top at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised this is a grade two, but I guess it's a grade two, and maybe just didn't get great entries. That's why I thought the two horse might be a single. To be honest, Oldie, I I do not like the three, just like you. I do not like the six. It's not winning at this level. The seven's not winning versus easier. Again, I think the three is there to probably inject some pace for the eight. You know, I think that the two probably gets a great pace setup. On the race sim, the two kind of wins easy over the eight. But you know, I saw it similar to you in that the eight to me was underneath and not to win. But I mean, you look at integration, and I mean, if you just even toss Kentucky Downs, Oldie, just because it was
Yeah,
is predominantly all meat was speed favoring. It's a tough track. Not everybody likes it. And then, you know, the two ran in the Arlington Million, which, why I mentioned this is I'm like, how they still call this race the Arlington Million, but it's run at
yeah,
Colonial. And I'm like, and you have a very long history of the Arlington Million at Arlington Park. I was like, how come they kept the name? But I guess they want to keep the name because of the prestige of the race or something. But that source is just coming from way tougher, Odie. And I thought, if you look at all these races in these grade one races,
yeah.
integration is like getting like an easy group. I mean, it's just this an easy group in a grade two. Um, Brendan, I'd be curious in the chat, like why you thought the seven had a shot. I didn't think that horse really had much of a shot, but I value your opinion, so would be curious. But Oli, go ahead.
No, I agree. I didn't think the seven fit in this race either. The nine's another one. If there is pace, could benefit from it,
Yeah,
maybe.
Jose Charidevo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that I'm actually glad you mentioned that. I mean, didn't break last out and won in a 64. I mean, has seven starts, so in a way, maybe the nine could improve, but I thought the two might be a single, so I didn't really love anybody else, to be
yeah.
honest. So, I probably would be two on top and then nine maybe and then eight, but um, I'm not sure that, I'm not sure that I didn't really look at the whole sequence, but I'm not sure I'm probably going to find a better single after handicapping this.
Yeah,
It just looked like an easy spot for integration.
makes sense for
All
sure.
right. We're an hour in. Thanks everybody for being here. We got a handful of stakes races still to cover. We are going to move on though, Oldie, from Aqueduct, and we are going to jump over to Church Hill Downs, race number 8 for 3 and up, fillies and mares. Spirit Wind shows up here as the likely favorite, I would say. The 5 Mystic Pleasure gets a little morning line love from the odds maker. But only in my opinion, I'm not sure anybody can beat Spirit Wind, but curious to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts.
Uh, I mean, I'm a little suspicious of this horse,
Yeah, I mean,
just because of the last time out uh, in the TCA, but I have this horse on top. It's probably a single. I mean, Mystic Pleasure has some decent works for Brissett, but nothing special. Um, my only other question again is, do they go too fast? And I was three on top, the five, and then I was the four, who's a huge long shot. But again, that's a use underneath for me. That's if the
oh,
pace, if everything goes haywire and the pace breaks down, maybe this is one of those races that blows up the board.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the 3 kind of romps here, wins by
Yeah,
2 lengths over the 2 and 5. I mean, Evan Ramon rides for Paulo Lobo on the 2. The source is getting back to 6 furlongs. That is his last win, but I don't know. I mean, I think your point might be valid on Spirit Wind. In my opinion, I think Safi's just finding an easy spot here, and in just a stakes race. Maybe they're pointing to, you know, a a graded race here at Churchill, and in the path for her. But I kind of similar to that Aqueduct race with integration. She's just getting much easier, so it could be suspect, or they're just gonna pick up a nice probably $170,000 check.
Yep.
All right,
Agreed.
and as we see there is a Zoom tomorrow. They will be taking some deeper dives into Saturday pre-stretch run show. There's a link there if you want to sign up. Always a good time with the EquinEdge crew and groups joining in and watching races, talking races, usually probably drinking bourbon. But yeah, if you want to join that, there's the link. Okay, we will move along, Oldy. And we are going to go to the River City Stakes race number 10 on the Churchill turf. So Oldy, you got to help me here. I've been a little bit out of the loop. I did not look at a horse, a race in, I don't know, 4 days. That does not happen
Mhm.
often. I had to start doing that yesterday with coaching class. But the 3 running without LASIK stand. That's good to know. But so what's the deal with the Churchill turf course? Did they actually figure it out, or have you heard, or what's going on?
I mean, they ran on it today.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, and the favorites ran well today on the turf course. It is what it is at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
But you can close on it, and I think you can win on the lead too. But I think here there might be a lot of speed and some of it cheap, like Wonderful Justice
Yes.
and Hades, who did
Yes.
win the Holy Bull. So it may not sound like that horse is cheap, but I think it actually is. So, for me, uh, I really had to go off the pace. I really like Battle of Normandy here for Shug
Yeah.
with Machado riding. You're getting 6-1. The horse is an 89 GSR. Won at 8.5, has a win at 9, has a win at 11, won 3 in a row. Uh, this horse was once very highly thought of last year as well, and just missed at Kentucky Downs, and has come back and been really sharp this year, and is second off the layoff as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I had Battle of Normandy in my second pick, but as we talked about, Luan rides. He's back in his home Kentucky. That's predominantly where he rides. But for anybody just tuning in, he is riding in at Aqueduct. I believe that was on Friday. One of the races we covered there. I thought was a sneaky pick there at Aqueduct, but I don't disagree with you, Oldie. I think, in great form, had a minor layoff, comes back and win, now ships over to Churchill, and for Shug, Luan gets, the mount over Flavian and Rosario. I obviously Flavian probably riding in New York. I can't remember where Joel is, but I think it's for sure a fit. I actually put Emmanuel on top, Oldie, mainly just because, it is Louis. He's been riding great. It's Maker. Louis has not been riding, right? Manny, Jose, the Irad brothers have been riding. Here it does show up as the favorite at 29%. I think gets, the SOR shows that this is just a massive drop, Oldie. And so that's my main thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with Emmanuel. I just think
No.
Emmanuel might not be a grade 1 horse, Oldie. And, for that matter, maybe not a grade 2, but I think shows up here in a grade 3 in the River City. And I think to, your point, there is going to be pace here in front. And I think Louis, all the speed going to go in front, and he's going to be in the one hole, and he's just going to save ground around the track. And I think just sits a dream trip, has one near the lead, has not been running, Oldy, but these races are just too tough. If you
Yeah.
say just toss Kentucky Downs, whether the horse likes it or not, and you go back to the Fletcher races, Fletcher just had Emmanuel just running in just really, really tough company. And, I think with there being enough pace there, I think that Emmanuel is just going to sit a good trip. I mean, by far the toughest, coming from the toughest strength of race, and I think you could put a question mark there, but I just think the drop is fine. I just think they probably want to cash a check, and they found a great spot. And, to me, I think, it should run really well.
Yeah, no, Emmanuel was my second pick, so I pretty much agree with you with everything you had to say about Emmanuel here.
Yeah. What
The
about,
other horse
go ahead.
yeah, because I may mention the horse that you were about to ask me about. But the other horse I liked here, my third horse was Gigante, the
Yeah.
9 horse.
Yeah.
Was in good form at Fairgrounds last year around this time. Came off the bench. This is second off the layoff. Is working really nicely too. If you go look at the works.
Oh yeah, a couple 3 stars, some videos.
Yeah, I mean this horse could just be sitting on a big second off the layoff effort here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I didn't. The only other horse we should probably talk about, Oldy, before we move on, was Cash Equity. So, neither one of us really talked about Cash Equity, but Cash Equity, the morning line favorite, only 5%. My comment here, and I welcome your thoughts too. I mean, D'Amato had this horse and it won a 64, and then this is kind of why I like Emmanuel so much, Oldy. I mean, Cash Equity's the favorite, but this horse has not been able to win, and Safi's had this horse. So, I mean, I know it's now dropping, but this horse wasn't able to win in all these other races, Oldy. Yeah. So, it just wasn't for me. I mean, the win percent goes from 2 to 5. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure why this horse is even the morning line favorite. Like I couldn't wrap my brain around it.
This was the example that Chris and I were example of a horse that Chris and I were talking about earlier. I mean, this horse is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This horse has lost 12, 13, 14 in a row. Mm-hmm. So it's over its last 14. I was going to compare it to an estranged parent who just never gets home. Yeah. Because it gets really close to home, but it doesn't quite get home. And hopefully that didn't offend anybody, but this horse, it runs a ton. It's always running, but it just never quite gets there. Mm-hmm. Or it's a pizza delivery man who never makes the pizza delivery. That's
when you said a pizza delivery man, you know what? The first thing that came into my mind, you want to guess what it was?
The pizza man, the horse, or
no, but that's a good guess. You probably won't guess. Home Alone. I'm not sure why, but I just have this memory of that guy driving that car into the front of the house when he, drops off the pizza and has to fix stuff. But I don't know. Yeah. Good luck.
No, I'm just thinking like, you're waiting 2 hours for your pizza and it just never shows up. You might remember, you might have had days like that in college where after a night out at college, you order a pizza and then it never shows up. That's Cash Equity.
I don't as much mind. The morning line doesn't matter to me. You know me. I actually, I think Nick probably makes the morning line here. And Brandon, we can talk about Battle of Normandy too. Happy to do that. Oh, actually, we did talk about the 8.
Yeah, Battle of Normandy is my top pick.
Yeah, that's Oldy's top pick, Brendan. That was my second pick. And we can loop back there. Oldy, my comment was going to be, I actually, whatever, the 10's the favorite. I hope that causes some extra money to go on the 10 because I like the 1 so much. I think if the 1 was actually the morning line favorite, and maybe it does go off as the favorite, it probably goes off as the favorite. And it still might, you know what I mean? But from that perspective, whether you like morning lines or not, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, and we have obviously our own morning line, which shows this, it shows them as morning line favorites. So, I think the 1 or 10 probably go off as the favorite, but I'm definitely against cash equity. And then, before we move on, Oldy, Battle of Normandy, I'll let you just so Brendan can hear again, but 1-3 in a row. I agree with you. I think fits here.
Yeah, won 3 in a row, nearly won a graded stakes at Kentucky Downs last year. It's in really good form. We already know has no problem with the distance. I like the price as well on the horse. With in a race where I think the favorite is vulnerable. So, the Battle of Normandy to me just seems to make sense here. And the horse
Yeah.
has shown the ability to sit, shown the ability to press, shown the ability to be on the lead. So this is a very tactical horse.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree with you. You get a good price, and again, Lawan riding. I think Goldie, and we'll move on here, but I think Lawan Machado is going to end up being, he's already really riding really well, but, as, we're obviously, we're just finished Keeneland and now move over to Churchill, and we'll obviously have Turfway Park here in the wintertime. But yeah, I think, he's going to have a great meet here at Churchill and a great rest of the year. Brendan, here would be my perspective on that. I actually think you probably will get close to 6-1 because part of the reason I'm not, I feel like I'm kind of cheating. I just think the E morning line is so good and it continually demonstrates that how accurate it is. And the reason also why I say that even without that is I do think the 1 and 10 are both going to take money. They're both dropping in versus just an okay group. So whether you get 5-1, 6-1, I do think you're going to get that okay price, but that's my perspective. We'll have to wait and see. All right. We got one more here before we got about 4 more races, everybody. So probably another, I don't know, 20 minutes. We're going to probably try to close this up right at the 90-minute mark for the show. But one of my most favorite tracks, Oldy, for sure, that we just watched all last weekend over at Del Mar. They have 1 stakes on Saturday, and it's a state bred, the Cary Grant Stakes. And, in my opinion, I thought this was a 2-horse race. I really did. I think you can make a decision on where you want to go. So I'm curious on your thoughts here.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-horse race also. I really thought it was between the 1 and the 2. I went with the 1 just because speed on the West Coast seems to do really well in these situations. I don't really have a lot to say about Big City Lights. This horse obviously is dropping here, did beat a group of 70s, but really hasn't shown that this horse can win at 7 furlongs, and it's had several attempts. So I think that maybe the 1 can pull the minor upset here. And I think it might not be as minor. I think the morning line might have that 4 to 5 price right there on Big City Lights.
Yeah, no, I put the 2 on top. But I do think it's kind of a coin flip, and not the win percent don't quite show it as a coin flip, but the 2 does win the race sim. I put the 2 over the 1. I think your perspective on 7 furlongs is totally valid. I do think this is just easier, right? I mean, obviously, first race back off a layoff for Mr. Mandela and Kimura rides, who he did ride last out, but predominantly this horse has had Flavian and Juan Hernandez riding. Juan rode for quite a bit, and you can see JJ not riding here, but Kimura only hit at 13%, but this is just so much easier, Oldie. I mean, these were open company graded stakes and now just drops into, or these were so much tougher. This is such an
Yeah.
easier race, in my opinion. But I am with you. I do think it is just between the one or two. You know, I do lean to the two, but to your point, the one with the speed and Edwin Maldonado just rides great on the front end. If I'm playing, Maldonado, I'm playing him on the lead. That's where I like to see it. So, I don't think you can knock your pick at all. I just landed on the two. I thought maybe it was just the better horse here. In there, I think looking for better things as the horse comes back off the layoff. It's hit the board in every single try versus tougher. Even all of these state bred races show up a lot tougher than the races here. So, 2-horse race. I'm on the two. You are on the one. Yeah, I think Brennan, totally valid, needs to be close, but should be a good race. All right, Oldy. We got 3 left. We are going to jump over to the Vine, and they got 3 graded stakes in a row to close the card. I looked at the race 7, Oldie, and I saw various GSR increases, and anytime I see that, I always kind of pay attention. And then you see an AE in the 13, or not an AE. Sorry, that horse is actually entered, so please forgive me. I believe. I think they must be able to. Yeah. Okay. And Caitlin, her greatness. I do love the name with the GSR increase, but you also have the 6. But you got a pace. You got a pace number as well with the square. An aha moment in the Maple Leaf Stakes, the grade 3. So curious to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah. So, going long at Woodbine, I've seen horses on the pace steal these races. I've seen, pace meltdown. So they play pretty fair. I went on top with it's not often you get 20-1 on a Cassie. You got top pace on Aha Moment here. I definitely needs to improve, but it's been much better on synthetic, and will need to clear that than it has been on turf. So at 20-1, that's a price to take a chance on, but not a horse I would single there. I also the 13, Caitlin Her Greatness, the E top pick, won the King's Plate as a filly a couple months ago. Went to the turf, comes back to the surface the horse belongs on here, and from that outside post should get a great trip. I doubt you get 5-1. I think you're going to get 6-5 there.
Yeah, yep, yeah, I am with you. I'm not sure how that horse was 5-1. I mean, especially coming off the King's Plate win. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, this is her first time facing older horses.
Good point.
So
yep.
That probably is why. For Kevin Attard. And then the other horse I liked here, if those two falter, is another Cassie, the graded stakes place, nearly won a grade 3 last time out at 8.5 in Elysian Fields, the 6. You already knew where I was going.
That's actually who I put on top, Oldie. I do think that 13 had a big shot. I really only looked at those 2 horses. If last out, broke, but then I don't really know what happened, Oldie. I didn't get anything out of the trouble line. I do like the stretch out. The GSR goes up 10 points, gets off all those turf races, sticks with the synthetic track up at Woodbine. I think a lot of money going to flow in on Caitlin Her Greatness, and I think she got a massive shot. But I think to your point, probably going to take quite a bit of money at, 6-5, 9-5. When you look at Elysian Fields, you're probably going to get every bit of 6-1, and I think here it was obviously too close to the pace. It's had kind of various running lines, but I think that similar to a little bit ago when we saw, the GSR increase on the turf, you get this GSR increase on a synthetic track, and this is what she wants to do. And so, and again, she has raced one time, Oldy, at 10 furlongs, right? And
Yeah.
that race, right, was back in the King's Plate in 2023 and ran a big race in second. And, yes, was not winning these races on the turf at Gulfstream, but those are, or at Gulfstream and Woodbine, but those are always really competitive. But I think the Elysian Field getting back to the synthetic is going to be the key. And, but I do think it's between the 6 and the 13. And then the only other horse, Oldie, that I thought, when I was looking was is either Miley Girl or Millie Girl. I think this horse is probably underneath Oldie, but I do like the drop in SOR coming out of Saratoga and Woodbine in both the Flower Bowl and then that grade 2 here. I think from a long shot perspective, definitely might have a look. So I was 6-13-2.
All right. So I'm just going to make you take a closer look because I think I missed it too at the 5, the second choice.
Yeah, I just go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, low percentage jockey, but has been riding this horse. The horse is one close to the lead. Horses one closing. My question is 10 furlongs. I'm not positive about that's the reason it didn't make my top 3, but I think you can't dismiss this horse. I think this horse may take a lot of money too because
No,
people
yeah.
can't see that it doesn't want 9 furlongs or 10 furlongs here.
Mm-hmm.
And the but I do think that this horse has to be at least reckoned with a little bit
I mean, it's
just because
pretty
it wins.
crazy. I mean, this horse just was so far back, Oldie, and then just came absolutely kind of flying, right? I mean, that was a really long, sustained run. Um, and as you mentioned, this must be these two must be brothers, but this is the David Moran.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't like a horse at that price. And I don't know what happened last out, but that was an incredible run. But I mean, I can't knock this horse. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I was trying to beat the 5, to be honest. I only 8%. Has won some big races in the mid 60s, but those are at just big win percents. So, it is the second pick though, right? So for sure a player, kind of fits there. I talked about the 6 and 2, and we talked about the 6. So yeah, I mean, I think for sure, obviously a player here.
All right.
All right, we got 2 more. We're gonna jump to race number 8, the $140,000 Bessarabian Stakes. So you have a horse to watch, Gold in the 3. It's
Yeah.
top EE morning line, top pace, top win, and the long shot. They're going 7, but I mean, there could be some speed here. All the other win percents are spread out between all the other horses, though.
Yeah. I mean, if the 12 was to scratch out, this horse might get an easier lead. I did use it on top just because of the price. It is Mark Casse. It did win an 8.5. It's shortening up to sprint. It won sprinting on the turf as well. But I don't like the GSR drop, but I know it's not an issue of synthetic itself because the horse already has a win against 70 SOR and a non-graded stakes on the synthetic. So I don't have the same questions I would have with a GSR drop where this horse was moving to the turf or something like that. I just think that this horse could be very tough for Cassie here on the lead. Hernandez is a good rider on the lead. And there's just this race to me, there just was not a lot here. Um, you know, the other horses I've liked a little bit with the 7 for Ward. If they
I
go
think that
fast,
horse is really sneaky, Oldie, the
yeah.
7.
I mean, if they go fast, I think the 7 will be in
Yes.
great position. I
Yep.
also thought 6 had a little bit of a look, but it's going to need a perfect ride and setup because that horse wants to close
It's a
there. And,
Clement horse.
yep. And here's a Clement and he's bringing Mariah, which
I
doesn't
saw. Yeah.
that doesn't make me say hurrah, hurrah for Mariah here.
Yeah.
That this is not one of those riders that I would say is going to move a horse forward in this situation and give you that perfect ride. Last time out at Presco, he had Dylan Davis aboard. So this is a big downgrade as
Mm-hmm.
well. So, and has had Kamara before here. So, at 3-1, I just can't use this horse on top in a multi-race wager that I'm trying to move past. If I don't single the 3, I probably would use it with the 3 and the 7 there. And then I had a 4th horse here, Justin, and I just think that uh, if you're going to spread here at the 11, is a horse you should consider at a big price.
9%. I mean, lightly raced. So, obviously from Kevin Attard, I mean, this and gets Ceviche. I mean, this horse probably could improve, right? I mean, it did run well 3 back, a couple layoff lines, but second off the layoff. Definitely has the opportunity to improve versus this group.
Yeah. And I think this horse may only want 1 turn.
Mm.
And
Yeah, you get the
second
GSR
off the layoff.
increase. You're right.
So it's a big price. If you're going to spread here, this is a horse I would consider using.
Yeah. I thought that Wesley shipping Sunday shoes up here, and obviously Walter Rodriguez comes up and Walter rides for Wesley down here in the States.
Yeah.
I think that ultimately I think they're probably looking at shipping this horse over to Turfway in the wintertime would be my guess, and probably going to be entered in some stakes races. I think that they keeping this horse fit and was probably the best spot, to be honest. And, one back-to-back kind of 68s in between has that grade 3 sandwiched in between. But that 74 Oldie last out, was 6% and, ran a respectable 5th and was on the rail the last 2 races. So I think with all that speed, and you had already mentioned, I think it could set up for Sunday shoes. The other horse that I thought to me, Oldie, that had a look was the 5 A game, and has won 2 in a row for Josie Carroll. I don't know this jockey, and we watch Woodbine a lot, and Fraser Abilene maybe, and has won at 6 furlongs, gets the stretch out here to 7, has won at 7 before, but has back-to-back wins there, won a grade 3 last out at 48-1 and just absolutely blew up the board. But, and it, just barely got up. But, I thought the 5 could have a look. So 7-5. And then, Love to Shop, Ollie, I believe, if I remember right, does Love to Shop win the race sim? Yeah. It's the top Scotty pick, wins the race sim. This isn't the other Attard with Justin Stein riding. I mean, has been racing a kind of similar, but not winning is why I didn't really love to shop. Oldie, is this Rapoli? Yeah, it's Rapoli and St. Elias stable. Like, I don't like the burning the money either. So to be honest, that's really why I landed on the 7 or the 5, Oldie, was because I did think with the pace, I thought you had promise in a horse from Wesley in the 7 from a pace and then also just from this group. I mean, you could say it's fairly competitive, but I think if you get around a few of these, and the 7 right there on the race sim with the 6 and 3. So I was 7-5 here in this race.
All right, and I was 3-7-6-11 in this race.
All right, Jamar Chase just scored a touchdown. That's good and bad for me. It's good in one fantasy league. It's bad in another, but it is good because that was a long touchdown. That looks like that was about 70 yards. And I did place a little bet on Jamar Chase for yards and a touchdown tonight.
Nice.
So he easily accomplished that. I mean, he must have 120 or 150 yards. Wow.
Well, and Chase Brown's been killing me tonight. He already has 15 points.
Yeah, a lot of people talked about this game might be fairly offensive, and at the moment, Cincinnati's showing up Baltimore. All right, we got one left. We got race number 9 on Saturday at Woodbine, the 180,000 HPI Bet Autumn Stakes, Oldy. So Paramount Prince, and all pace, more pace on the synthetic, but 7-2 EquinEdge Morning Line has this as the favorites over the 11 and the 12, but and you have War Bomber, the 6 is the second pick. So curious to hear where you landed here.
I mean, I really thought this was a 2-horse race between the 7 and the 11. And it just all depends on how difficult of a time Paramount Prince has getting to the lead or clearing to me. And, Paramount Prince, another King's Plate winner here, won the King's Plate a year ago on the lead for Mark Cassie at 10 furlongs. So 9 furlongs isn't a problem. This horse 100% needs the lead. No lead, no win.
Yes. Yeah. You need to brand that. No lead, no win.
No lead, no win. But if you get no lead here, I mean, there's some other nice horses here, but the Dresden Row, the 11 the long shot wins the race sim and wins it actually pretty easily.
Yeah, I know. Yes. I mean, and that's going to be a great price, Oldie. That's actually where I would land on top was the 11. I mean, 30% win long shot. I mean, and at a price of what, maybe 5 to 8 to 1 out. I mean, that's just golden when you have GSR drops in a race like this.
Yeah. I mean, and it's tactical. 1, 2 grade 3s in a row. I don't know the 21%, Lauren Richards. And, I just think that this horse could get a really nice trip here, right behind the speed. If Paramount Prince stops, it is your most likely horse to pounce on that. Forever Super is a nice horse too, but taking a step up in class here, the 12. And, was barely beat that group of 66s at 8.5. And now is in against tougher. So for me, it was the 11 and the 7.
Yeah. I thought I agree with you completely on the 11, mainly when I looked here and I watched the race sim, Oldy. And then I said, okay, and I did handicap this race probably the fastest out of all of them because I just said, okay, I don't like the GSR drop on the 9, right? It's going down 24 points off the turf. And we talk about this a lot. I'm just like, I can't get down with a horse that drops that much, and, Sir London, you have Tosin Wish who also dropping 21 points and these horses occasionally win, but so I narrowed and then only I looked and I'm like, okay, if to your point, if the 7 don't get the lead, it's done. I do think it's going to get some pressure. And so, I think that the 11, to your point, just it's a dream trip. I really do. I think that, you're going to get a great price for a long shot. I think I think a competitive group. It's a big field, but, I thought the 11 would be tough. And then I don't disagree with you on the 12, right? Won 3 in a row. This horse can win on the turf, on the synthetic, for Trompetta. I think 100% fits here, has been the favorite, 6 times in a row, has 4 wins out of that. So, has burned a tad bit of money, and that would be my biggest concern, Oldie. I mean, this horse has been racing and winning versus easier on the 12. And then you look at Dresden Rowe, right, who similar, but does show up with that 72 SOR. And so I think if you can get a similar trip in a similar race, I think wins here. So totally agree with you here.
Well, and if this melts, let me give you one last long shot here. The
10.
one horse Artie Storm. Grade 3 winner last year, second off the layoff for Buttigieg.
Yeah. I think I think you're right. I mean, if this does melt and the 11 doesn't win, and I think you could throw the 12 in that. I mean, find who you like. The 10 is the horse that closes on the race sim. That's why I thought that's where you were going, right? I mean, low win percent, bail us out. Yeah. Lightly raced barrage rides for a tard, but this horse, I did show some ability last out in the Ontario Derby. So, I mean, it's only 3%. But I think that, predominantly it's because the win percent going to everybody else. But that would be my horse to maybe run into the super, the trifecta would be the 10.
And I'll tell you on the 10, that's also a 3-year-old facing older.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think the 10 can win, but I think at a price, I do think versus this group, Oldie, I mean, if you get all that pace and just not a great group, I do think that horse has the potential to, maybe improve here to hit the board. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it. It is lightly raced. It could definitely improve. And, I think both the 1 and the 10 need a pace meltdown in order to win this race, but it does happen sometimes, especially on the synthetic. So,
all right. Well, that was fun. We kind of crushed it in about 90 minutes. That's always the goal. And Brennan, I appreciate that. I did not recognize his name, so I appreciate you sharing that. I even have a little more like to Abeli, maybe is how you pronounce his name. But brother, that was fun. Scotty on vacation. We got to go through a great group of stakes races on kind of a light weekend. But obviously some competitive races.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. That was a pleasure. Thanks everybody for being here. It was fun. We always love covering stakes races with everybody. We wish everybody luck, and we will see you all this weekend. We have the stretch run on Saturday. But good luck. We hope you all keep your opinions coming after Breeders' Cup. Don't let that cause you to change course. It's always tough. But thanks everybody for being here. Oldie, any last parting words?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you everybody for being here. Just want to point out one thing and make sure you guys take advantage if you have an NYRA Bets account. On Saturday, there is a $10,000 hidden split for both Aqueduct and Woodbine late pick 5s. So it's 5,000 on each. It's one promo to join. I would highly recommend if you're playing those sequences to take advantage of that promo because it can add some extra money to your balance if you win a race, like if you win any of those sequences. So,
well, and you one time, didn't you take the whole amount?
Yeah, I did take the whole $5,000 down. So
he sure as hell did. He sure as hell did.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. We got the coaching class tomorrow night. Let me drop the link here in the chat. We will be on with me at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're moving that to 7 p.m. starting on the 15th of November. So you can join there for free. We'll do a few live races, usually Remington and Lone Star running, look at some Saturday stuff and have a little fun. Stretch run, we're going to figure out the time once we end here. Probably, I think, around 2 o'clock Eastern time, but we'll figure that out. Look for that on YouTube and on the Twitter blast. But great job, guys.
All right, everybody. Have a good evening. It's always fun, and good luck this weekend.